Hello and welcome to Session 1, Workshop 1, Transforming School Culture Through Instructional Coaching. If you're enjoying the learning today, you can pay the joy forward by going to the Ed Collab site and finding out how you can donate to Grace Smith House, our adopted charity. Grace Smith House is a private, not-for-profit domestic violence agency providing both residential and non-residential services. Because the Ed Collab Gathering Day is a day of free learning, we invite you to donate what you would have spent on coffee, lunch, or even registration for an amazing day like this. You can pay it forward to support others. Today, we welcome Dr. Deirdre Spollen La-Raia and Katie McGrath for their session, Transforming School Culture Through Instructional Coaching. Dr. Deirdre Spollen La-Raia is currently a principal at Westbrook Middle School and a professor at the College of St. Elizabeth. Deirdre began her career in New York City Public Schools as a teacher, literacy staff developer, assistant principal, and supervisor of special education. In New Jersey, she has served as literacy supervisor and elementary principal. The past 2 years have been instrumental in building instructional coaching at her school. Joining Deirdre is Katie McGrath, a middle school instructional coach at the Paramus Public Schools. Prior to coaching, she taught middle school language arts for 12 years. Katie has written literacy curriculum for the middle school and coaches in classrooms regularly. Friends, if you're on Twitter, you can share your learning using the hashtag #TheEdCollabGathering and a space and a number 4, and be sure to tag our presenters. Now, let's welcome Deirdre Spollen La-Raia and Katie McGrath to the Ed Collab Gathering.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Oh, this is so exciting. This is super exciting. Welcome to Transforming School Culture Through Instructional Coaching. Ed Collab Gathering, we're session number 4. And I'm Deirdre Spollen La-Raia, principal of Westbrook Middle School in Paramus. And I'm joined by my colleague, Katie McGrath, who is our instructional coach at Westbrook.
So excited to be here with you.
We are, before we begin, we just want to say thank you so much to the Ed Collab for allowing us the opportunity to share our work today. Thanks to Chris Lehman, and thank you so much to our tech guide, Jessica Walsh, for all of your support. You've been amazing. So let's get started, and let's bring up that next slide there, Jessica. That's awesome. Thank you. So as we move through our work today, we would love for you to reach out to us with all of your comments and all of your questions. Here's our contact information. Share your thoughts on Twitter. And then after the presentation, we would love for you to contact us about the work that you're doing in your schools in transforming school culture and instructional coaching. So thanks, Jessie. Let's go to the next one. So what is instructional coaching all about? That's why we're here today. You know, the research is replete with work in the area of literacy coaching and the impact on teacher collaboration and school culture. And as we see inquiry coming up in classrooms and strategy instruction in the content areas, instructional coaching has really become more prevalent in schools. And it's a professional practice that, as you see here, it really supports and guides teachers both in the classroom and outside of the classroom. We like to say it's kind of having that sideline coach on the side, and cheering you on and giving you that advice on the next move to make. And those are all those parts in teaching that coach can help you get through. All those parts that are so intricately connected when we get into the classroom and we're sitting with our students. It's like having that colleague that is supporting you and providing you with strategies and instructional models. And having a colleague that's going to help lead you through looking at student work and sharing best practices.
Exactly.
So, really, let's take a look at the next one. As we go through our slide, we thought about really breaking it up into the why, the when, and the how.
Right. So as we go through the work today, we have really made it a goal in our building to communicate our why first, and we just feel that this practice just gets the whole staff on the same page. So our why behind coaching is it's truly celebrates growth and learning and puts all staff members in the position that we are in it together and we are learning and we are going to be the best we can be for our students. And that coach is so valuable because it provides that external set of ears and eyes, which is just a valuable tool to have someone else there truly just to support you and not evaluate you. So then we're going to transition into the when. So when can you make this happen? So you're going to provide as many opportunities as possible for coaching. And we're going to talk about whether you have a full-time coach, a part-time coach, no coach in your building, but you want to build some of these practices in. When can you make time for that? And then lastly, we're going to go into the practicality of the how coaching can look. So ideally, coaching is most effective in class where the teacher and coach are working one-on-one, and we're going to talk about that model, but there's other possibilities that you can get coaching models into your building through study groups and lab sites. The key, though, is being in the classroom with kids. The greatest model of professional learning you can bring is teachers in classrooms working with kids, collaborating together to grow our practice.
Yeah.
So
Jess, we can move to the next one. Katie had mentioned that it's really about getting in those classrooms, and that's so important. And as a building leader, it's important to take on that coaching mindset and in providing feedback to teachers, and always with the lens on enhancing our craft of teaching, enhancing our instruction. And that's really what instructional coaching is all about. And as Katie had mentioned, it's really important that it's outlined specifically for staff when you begin an endeavor like we have. So as you can see here, instructional coaching is celebratory, it's supportive, it's collaborative. It's very intentional, the work that we're doing to get into classrooms and working with teachers and working with students. And I love the fact that it's really messy.
Yes.
It's so messy.
Yeah, like Chris, like lean into the discomfort, lean into the mess.
Yeah, and it's confidential. And so that kind of brings us to the what it's not. And instructional coaching is not necessarily evaluative.
Yeah.
It's non-judgmental. It's about celebrating the work that we're doing. It's about thinking about the work that we're doing. It's about reflecting on the work that we're doing. And the last piece there is the coach is not the expert. It's important to think about that the coach is working alongside you and that we're learning alongside you.
Yes.
So let's take a look at what instructional coaching could look like. And we think it's important that to share what instructional coaching looks like in our school, so that you could perhaps have an opportunity to replicate the practice or in your district. And we're fortunate. I'm so fortunate to have Katie as our instructional coach in our school, and she's full-time. But it could also be a teacher leader in your school.
Absolutely.
It could be somebody who takes on that role in working with teachers. And, this is what it could look like. It's about conversations. It's about collaborative planning and co-teaching, working with teachers to share their thinking, to work through some problem solving. And, really important, they're not just about celebrating but about taking risks, right? Isn't that what we all really want to do? We want to take risk in our profession to support students.
So as you start to dig into now some of the practicality of how it might work, we're going to roll out some options. So if you are a teacher leader or a coach or even an administrator that is taking on that helpful role of a coach, how might you plan a coaching cycle? So it's best to plan a coaching cycle. It can be as like 4 or 5 days. So when we're saying a cycle, it doesn't have to be weeks long of time, but we have found, and Deirdre helped me when she was mentoring me in this work, it's not really a pop in, pop out method. You don't want to just pop in one day and then not see. So when you're planning using a cycle, it just really lays out clear expectations and goals. So we love, one of the options is the gradual release model, which, as we know, is just good instructional practice that we use in our classroom, but it works really well for coaching. So with this model, the coach kind of leads the first section, which is the coach will kind of guide the teacher in goal setting, maybe providing some options using district or school-wide goals, asking the teacher what they want to work on. And then we frame that our learning is about growth and looking at our students to kind of tell us where we should go with our work. And then in the I-Go, the coach likes to demo. I sometimes joke I'm resistant to use the word modeling because it puts me in a position where I don't feel always that I have to be the model, but I'm just another option of maybe demoing how something might look. And the coach often shares resources in this section. We try to quickly move into the we-go because while the teacher can learn a lot from watching the coach and we learn from other people, we really start learning and embracing practices as our own when we start doing them ourselves. So we need the coach and teacher to move into the we-go, where there's a lot of co-planning and co-teaching, so that coach is there as that support and cheerleader on the side while the teacher is trying out that work. There's a lot of check-in with student work, and we use student work to drive our decision making. I feel when we focus our coaching on the work of the student, it helps take that evaluative feel out of the work, because it's not the coach looking at the teacher evaluating your practice. We're working together to say, how are we impacting students? How are we impacting learning? And then what can we do going forward? And then when we try by the end of the cycle to release control to the teacher. So the coach is really now fully on the sideline, cheering, supporting, whispering in, and reflecting and celebrating, heavily celebrating the work that just happened in that cycle. And you can use this method as few as 4 or 5 days to make some progress, as long as the goals are zoomed in and focused. Okay, Jess, as we go on, so this is just a more zoomed in version on how a 5-day plan might work. You can certainly spend more, but we were thinking of practicality today too, of if you don't have a full-time coach or you have a teacher leader, how could they go into a room maybe 1 time a week for 5 weeks and still make some impact on teacher learning and professional growth? So this is just an example of how a coaching cycle might go. And just, I think it's key to look at how long you spend in each stage of the gradual release. You're only in the I-Go for typically 1 time. So the teacher is only watching you as the coach demo work 1 time. They have a kind of a guide sheet or a look for sheet on the side where to brief, but we move really quickly into the we-go and the you-go, so the teacher is at the center of the learning, and we can see how what that teacher is doing impacts student practice, because the more the teacher gets comfortable with the work they're doing, the more likely they are to be independent with that work once the coach leaves. And the last thing we want to emphasize here is, I think, the importance of the pre-planning meeting. So I think before you start any coaching cycle, it's really important to touch base with your teachers and have a one-on-one conversation around what are the goals you want to practice, how do you want to grow in your work, and then laying out the plan, which I might share this with teachers with a little more specifics depending on our goal. And then also asking the teacher things like, how do you like to receive feedback? Do you want me to just quietly note take on the back and then talk to you about it after? Are you okay with me jumping in or whispering in? You have to let the teacher know what coaching might look like, and then also give them the choice based on their comfort level of what it's going to be in their room. So when the teacher has a voice and a say in how the coaching cycle is going to look, I feel it sets it up for greater success.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I think what's been helpful is that what has guided us has been really looking at that inquiry cycle, and in terms of having those really, really intentional conversations about what's taking place. And, as we move forward in our practice, it's about having that cycle of really good inquiry and questioning and open conversations with teachers.
Yes. And when we use the inquiry model, it puts the teacher and coach in this position together of just curious learners about our kids. And that's just a really exciting place to be. It puts us on a leveling playing field, just saying, what are we curious about? What do we want to explore? And then we use the inquiry cycle as a learner to look at our students, research, make decisions about what practices might be best, play with them, reflect on them, and then eventually make changes. So this is another model that you might use instead of the gradual release. Again, the key is to emphasize that the teacher and coach are collaborating and working together. It's not the coach coming into someone's room saying, I'm going to do this and you're going to watch from the side, but it's really a collaboration of working together and honoring student work and where students are and growing in our work.
And that's important because that's really the first step in transforming school culture, about having those conversations with teachers and really opening our doors and opening up our conversations and having real conversations about practice.
And we feel like when you're saying, what are you curious about? What do you want to learn in your practice? It just automatically starts to break down these walls that we're all learning and growing in our practice and our work alongside kids, and no one's expected to be the master teacher at everything. So let's get curious together and let's figure out what we can do. And this has been, I feel, this really effective this year for getting into classrooms, getting teachers open and willing to do some of this exciting work.
Yeah. So Jess, you can move us to the next slide. We're going to really start talking about some of those coaching methods, right?
Yeah, so there are a lot of things that if you were a classroom teacher, which I'm sure if anyone has moved into the role of the coach or administrator, you were in the classroom at some point, that transfer really well into coaching. But then there are a couple unique coaching moves that really help build the teacher's capacity to do this work. So the first of those, and we have some videos to show you after, but the first of those is the voiceover, which you will see. That's more of in the I go phase of the coach kind of being at the forefront of the demoing, where the coach is kind of stopping at certain points and talking to the teacher and explaining the work and what they're doing. So the teacher can see the thinking process of the teacher and the coach, and you can just make sure no one's a mind reader. What are you thinking about when you're making those instructional decisions and verbalizing that for the teacher that you're working with? Some of the other methods work really well in the co-teach or the we go phase, which is the freeze frame or the jigsaw. So freeze frame would be where the coach and teacher stop in the middle of their work. They kind of debrief and they talk, and then they make decisions from there. Jigsaw is when you say, I'll take a part, you take a part, and we're going to do this together. So these, again, are methods you'll pick ahead of time or plan with the teacher, but they are helpful so your teacher feels comfortable with how the coaching is going to look in your room. And you might give them the choice of which of these they feel most comfortable with. The last two are really for the more of the teacher going, the I go phase, where the coach is on the sideline. So the coach might be whispering in, which is that little sometimes because, or remember we talked about that little reminder, that nudge that will get a teacher going, where some teachers don't like that, which is totally understandable. Sometimes they feel like it throws them off. I've just used like a little note pass where I'll give them that same verbal reminder in note form and slide it over so they get that, oh yeah, we're working on explaining our why, so I'm going to use a because statement. So these are just some of those methods. And we have little videos on action that we're going to show you next of how these might look.
Yeah, this is great. I think, Jess, you can bring up our first video. This is a voiceover coaching method with Katie and
okay. All right, tech guys, let's Let's hope this works. Let's cross our fingers. All right, let's do the videos here. Voiceovers first.
Yeah.
All right, girls, leave me a message in the chat if you can't hear. Let me share. If you can't hear the audio, okay?
Hi.
All right, let me share. Okay. All right, let's see. Video. All right. They're getting a lot of my face and they want to see the video. All right, screen share. Location. All right, let's do this.
We're putting Jess.
Aren't you glad that I'm doing this and not you guys? All right.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're so glad.
I don't mind looking like a fool on camera at all. Okay, are you guys seeing the video?
Yes.
We are.
All right. I'm gonna hit play. All right, let me know in the chat if you guys can hear it.
Cool.
Can't hear it.
No, we're not here. No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Tech ads aren't going to work for us today. Do you want to narrate for us what's going on in the video?
We will. Let's narrate.
Let's
Yeah,
narrate.
all right, let me pull it up. Hold on a sec. Let me pull it back up.
We were bold. We went for the videos, guys.
You
but
did. I love
sometimes-
it. Well, we got to do that sometimes, right?
Right.
All right. Here we go.
So in this video, I'm actually talking to the teacher first, and I'm explaining as I enter into a one-on-one writing conference, my intentions as I go in. So what am I kind of mining for or looking for as I'm in that conversation? So I explain that to the teacher, and then I actually start engaging in the conference with the student. So you'll notice at certain parts, the coach actually looks like they're talking to the teacher, and that's more of the voiceover, and then they do their normal teaching work with a student. So that's what you'll see. So right now I'm just conferring with a student in a writing class and just trying to get my normal teaching methods that I would use. And then what I'm doing again is stopping before I move to the next step. And again, voicing over my thinking, what I noticed about the student work, and then what are my next teaching steps. So I'm kind of walking through my thought process of exactly how I mine a student work, how I decide what I'm going to teach in a conference, and I'm voicing that over for the teacher so they can see my process.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
And
I wish I could have been over your shoulder.
And you know that's so important to really have those metacognitive thoughts. You know,
Yeah.
when you're in the moment of sitting down and doing some conferencing, or you're in the midst of some instructional strategy in your classroom, sometimes it's hard to really think through what's happening. So really having the coach there to really break it down into all those parts is just imperative, and it really helps us to reflect and bring all the learning together.
And selfishly, I love it because I feel as a teacher, like my learning has grown exponentially in such a short time taking on the role of a coach, because sometimes we go through the motions, and I would conference with kids and I felt pretty confident about, how I knew how to do that or how I knew how to launch a mini lesson. Then when you have to take that time to share your own thinking, it really brings it to the next level. So I think it helps you continue your growth if you're in the role of the coach. And then it's a tremendous asset for the teachers as well that you're working with. So we had one more video, but we can again narrate you through it. This one's more of a freeze frame. But I think the difference you're going to notice once we show is the coach is not the only one talking. There's actually more of the teacher talking, and the teacher is doing more of the work with the student, and the coach and teacher are just taking like a little break or time out, and then that's how it would gonna go. Okay.
So as we move on, what we'll do is we'll move just to thinking about, we've been through kind of the when and the how of coaching. So now we want to kind of circle back to those structures that support staff collaboration, and the why of instructional coaching, and how it really links to school culture in building collaboration among staff. So in the next few slides, what we're going to do is we're going to take you on our journey in creating spaces in your school that might support risk-taking and might support collaboration with teachers.
So it's so important to get that staff vision, I would say, on board before you start any of this work. And it's just because we are all there for our kids. And that's why we show up every day. And not only is this just, I think, something we believe, it's really proven with research and John Hattie and the collective teacher efficacy that the more we are together, we make the biggest impact on student achievement, and that's why we're showing up every day. So we felt it's super important to look at all our teachers of just not individual trees, but together as a school community, we come together. So that involves some common language, some common goals, some common professional learning experiences, so we can make a greater impact. So one thing you'll see there is our professional development survey for the upcoming school year, but we really tap on teachers a lot and ask them for their feedback, and that's important so they get a voice. What do you want to learn? What do you want to explore? And together that helps us form those goals that we dig into.
Yeah.
So as we move on, one of the first things we started, Jess, you can move on, is the pineapple chart as kind of a low stakes way to get people in each other's rooms. So you might have seen this before. You see it all over Twitter, but it has been a tremendous structure that allows people to get into each other's spaces. So if you move to the next slide, you can see how our pineapple chart looks in our building. So it's kind of a schedule of our periods, because we're in middle school, but you could have time blocks, you can have periods, whatever works. And then every week, there's those little slips of paper that if teachers want to open up their rooms, they just put what activity they're doing, what lesson they're doing, the focus, and they invite people in. It's mostly staff to each other. That's what we're promoting. It's not necessarily administrator going in. That's actually what we're trying to not promote, because we get enough of us, sometimes our administrative coming in. But that idea of, wow, this teacher has tried PBL this year. That's something I really want to try. I'm going to go into their room and see the work they're doing and learn from them. So this pineapple chart has been a tremendous way that we get to see the rich and amazing work of each other, because we all know with our busy schedule, how often do we have time to see our colleagues? So this is that open invitation, like, hey, come in my space and learn from me. And then we really like to celebrate that publicly.
And, you know, celebrating it publicly, we've moved to Twitter and Instagram this year as a school. And so one of the things that we've been doing is really celebrating that learning by making it public and sharing what's going on, sharing what the teachers are doing in the classrooms, sharing what the kids are doing in the classrooms, and sharing out that work. And it's been so important for us in terms of what's happening in the classrooms and showing what's happening in the classrooms, particularly at the middle school level, where sometimes families feel that they're disengaged from the learning process and from what's happening in school. But this has really been a way to open up our classroom doors and let our families in and have them join their students' learning, and have conversations when they go home, like, wow, I saw on Twitter and Insta that you're doing this in the classroom. So making that work public has been so important for us.
And it makes the teachers feel good that their work gets celebrated. It really helps promote that positive culture.
So in terms of, thinking about moving from our pineapple chart, there's also some intentional planning that we set up with learning walks and lab sites. And what we try to do is, learning walks are really those informal opportunities for colleagues to come together and reflect on what students are learning, reflect on teaching strategies, see the actual interaction, when students are in class and interacting with the content, and look at student engagement. And it really gives us a lens into what's happening in classrooms, and it sets up, some intentional opportunities for folks to get in and to share practices and to take away, right? We often joke that it's like stealing somebody's stuff, and our kids are so used to it at this point, because the teachers are going in and they're taking pictures and saying, wow, I never thought about, doing A, B, and C this way. That looks like an amazing way, an amazing routine or instructional strategy. So it really gives us a lens to celebrate our practice and just level up our strategies. And with that being said, we also really set up lab sites to take a look at practice where we could really zoom in on a specific practice, and then question and implement the practice and really celebrate what's working really, really well, and then think deeply about how we can continue to enhance our instruction. So with that, it's thinking about that process. It's something that you could implement really easily. It's about opening up our doors and sharing our work, having that intentional lens that we could view our colleagues and gather ideas. It's really about norming that culture that we have, that our school is sharing our work, and that we are viewing our colleagues in practice, and we're gathering ideas from each other, and most importantly, that we're reflecting on our practice.
Right, and I think when we have working towards that common goal and common vision, you see up at the top there that this would be one of our sheets of how a learning walk might go, and we have a specific focus. So it might be classroom environment, or it might be student engagement, student talk. You can choose your focuses, but we have like the category, break that down into the categories that you might see in that bigger focus. And then we use that inspiration from what we see in classrooms to create look-fors. And then that brings our whole staff to some common understanding of, okay, if these are our goals for classroom environment, as we're entering into classrooms, these are things that we might see in here. And we always use the word might, because we don't want to ever, expect that all these things are always happening all the time. But making those look for student-centered, the students are doing this, they're saying this. Again, it's taking the onus off the teacher onto the student, but we're really using our colleagues to get inspired by each other.
Yeah.
Because they're our greatest source of inspiration. So as we go to another staff collaboration, we call them in our building gab and grow sessions. Some people call them lunch and learns, but you can think about these small, super focused PD sessions. Ours last 30 minutes because our teachers have, and all teachers have packed schedules. They have a lot of responsibilities. And we know they want to engage in professional learning. They want to grow their practice, but they feel stretched thin. So how do we provide opportunities in their day for them to engage in some professional discourse and professional study, but keeping it focused and light? So this has worked for us in our processes. We kind of seek feedback, like that professional survey we shared earlier about what they might want support on. Then we plan a sequence of sessions. So because they're only 30 minutes, we can't get everything we need to about feedback, which is one of our school goals, for example, this year. We can't say everything we need about feedback in that one session. So we plan a sequence of, I would say, related learning experiences around feedback. And we do one gab and grow per marking period. So it's enough for us. We're a 4 marking period building, that it's not all the time, but they're enough that teachers get some real focused professional learning. We offer multiple sessions before school, after school, during the day. We give teachers a lot of opportunity to show up and learn. We give them practical strategies. Research is great and it's valuable and it's needed, but sometimes teachers, if they're giving up time for their day, they want something they can take and leave the next day. So we try to make sure all our gab and grows have some type of takeaway, something that you can, oh wow, it's a new conferring form, I might try out, or a new thinking routine I might try out for a science or social studies class, whatever it might be, but you can try it the next day. We wrap it up by seeking a lot of feedback from the staff. How did the session go? Did it meet your needs? We make revisions, and then we kind of continue in that pattern. And it's worked really well for us. Our teachers have been really open to signing up. And it's, again, completely voluntary. I think we want to emphasize that. But they are focused on the teachers' needs and what they want to grow in their classrooms and their practice.
Yeah, you know, I mean, being in a building, it's hard being a building leader. It's hard to get out of the building, and it's hard sometimes to send our teachers out because, of course, we want our teachers with our kids. So, providing these sessions have really afforded us the opportunity to do some targeted professional development while you're in school. So you don't have to travel anywhere. It's been really awesome.
Right. And if you're thinking, I don't have anyone to lead those, I mean, of course, your administrator could, but even Ed Camp style, have your teachers sign up. A lot of teachers have tremendous value and wisdom and knowledge to share with each other. So there's ways I think you can even use the structure, even if you don't have a coach to plan those sessions, but use the staff to rely on each other to do so.
So, Jess, you can take us that cue. That's awesome. So really, as our session, it's hard to believe that our session is coming to a close already. We have a couple of thoughts on how instructional coaching can truly transform a school culture, and certainly what we've seen along the way in our journey, because we really reflect on what's happening in our school and what we've seen happening. It's evident that in developing partnerships with colleagues, for us to have them connect and have them share their knowledge and share their strategies, be it through those walkthroughs or the Gab and Grow sessions or through the lab sites, or posting their information on a pineapple chart, that they're getting out there, they're sharing that work, that we're creating these opportunities for them to explore, to think, to try things out,
right.
And to reflect together. And sometimes having an instructional coach is having somebody kind of hold you accountable for the work, and
we need that
sometimes. You want to be that risk taker. You want to take those risks, and sometimes you need a coach who's gonna push you to say, go, you can do it, take that risk, and then question the practice and
right.
think about it.
And you can only bring your own experience, but I think this one sticks and so much out to me and resonates so deeply, because I feel when I had learning partnerships, and I had them through different ways. One time was with a colleague who just was my true partner in learning, and I felt so much more comfortable to explore some work around. We were really digging into student reflection and self-assessment and some new practices, and I felt risky to try it on my own, but when I knew I had someone that was trying it with me and that we could debrief together, and if something went wrong, we could kind of laugh about it, acknowledge it went wrong and move on. And then when I had a coach come in my room too, it allowed me almost to build a new sense of confidence in myself that I didn't even know was there. But when you had someone celebrating and saying, this is great work, and this is what we can do going forward, I felt it was a place in my career where I just really started to gain some traction. So I think partnering our teachers up, whether that is through the building, through the larger social community, up through social media and Twitter and Instagram, like find your learning partner, or find someone who believes what you believe about kids and learning, and connect with them and try stuff out, because it's going to feel much more comfortable when you're in the discomfort of new practice to have someone by your side doing it with you.
Yeah.
So if it's in your building, great, but try to find that elsewhere, because it will it will just make you more confident in your work.
Yeah, you know, we've made our mission, the mission of our work in our building and in instructional coaching, has been really clear, and that's that we are committed to our learning, and that we're a community of learners that are committed to growing our practice.
Yes.
And it certainly has been a journey, and I think that Jess, if you bring us to that next slide there. Yep, that's awesome. This is kind of how we wanted to leave everyone today. It brings us back to this snapshot that's actually posted in our professional development room. And it's Going Places was our theme for this school year, and the journey that we've shared today. It really does depict how we have truly transformed our school culture in our space by taking risks and growing as learners and building relationships with our students first and foremost, and with each other, and really opening our doors. I think we can say that our kids see each other as learners.
Yes. I think it's so powerful, right? When it's taking away that teacher as expert. And when you see your teacher as a learner and someone who's vulnerable and is putting themselves out there and collaborating, it creates that feel in your classroom that you want your students to do too. And you probably can't see, but written on all those different arrows are the teacher's goals for the school year, because posting your goals publicly holds you accountable, and it's actually shown to make you make more progress towards your goals. So we're really, as a community, lifting each other up, holding each other up, but also holding each other accountable for growing in our learning and working best and hardest for our students. And we are just really excited with what we've seen over the last, not even 2 years. It's been a year and a half. Right. But it's been an amazing journey, and we look forward to, what's next in helping grow our culture of learners.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing our journey in transforming school culture through instructional coaching. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Jess, and thank you to the Ed Collab.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Can I just clone myself and come over and work with you guys? I don't want to leave my district, but I really want to be with you all. I'm so inspired and energized by everything that you shared. I had so many aha moments, all of the examples of the impact on school culture when instructional coaching is valued and celebrated. All the images you guys shared about what that looks like in your buildings is amazing. So thank you guys so much. To our audience who are watching, if you popped in the middle or you just caught a little bit, this video will be archived and viewable later online on Twitter through the Ed Collab page. But as we wrap up this session, it's time to take a break, grab a snack, get ready for session 2. I'm going to preview those sessions here on my screen share. All right. Take a look at these amazing sessions we have coming up in session 2, starting in about 15 minutes. Again, thank you for joining us today for this amazing session.
Thanks, guys.
And thank you too, again, for sharing your passion and your expertise.
Thank you.
I'll say bye.
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 Have a good Saturday.